Thank you. So, hi everyone. I am Anisha Chaurasia, PhD research scholar at NIMS University, Rajasthan, India, with my co-author Jyoti Gaur. It's my honor to present my paper on gender literacy in a crisis, reimagining language learning for the climate displaced women in South Asia. So, this presentation, uh,
Sorry.
it's okay. So this presentation explore how climate-induced displacement disproportionately affect women access to the language, literacy, and the survival resources in India, Bangladesh, and Nepal. Our focus is not just on the problem, but on reimagining literacy as a tool for dignity, resilience, and the inclusion. Can and second slide is overview and outline. In today's presentation, I will walk you the through the six key segment. First, we'll begin with the context problem statement, highlighting the how language become both a barrier and the bridges for a displaced woman. Next, I will discuss our research methodology, which is draw heavily on the secondary analysis and the intersectional framework. We then examine the key barriers that restricted women access to the literacy during crisis. Following that, I introduced the CRGL model, a three-pillar solution framework. We support this with a case study from the Sundarban and the Bihar. Finally, we conclude with the implication and the recommendation that can guide policy and practice in the field. Yeah. Third is slide with context and problem statement. In South Asia, climate disaster such as a flood. Ma'am, please stop it. Yeah. Content and problem. Yeah. In South Asia, climate disasters such as a flood, cyclone, and the rising sea level displaced million women are among the most affected. Yet there is a literacy and the language need often remain invisible. For displaced women, language is not just a medium of learning; it's a tie to the identity, mobility, access to it, and the social integration. Currently, literacy initiatives are the largely gender blind, ignoring the unique struggle women face during the crisis. And as one of our key observation note, language access determining which community get a heard assistant or ignore after a climate catastrophe. Despite over 750 million people affected in 2 decades, research still overlook how gender and literacy intersects in discipline contents. Ma'am, can you? Yes. Gender impact on a climate displacement. Climate induced migration impact women and the Gulf for more severely than men. In Bangladesh and the Eastern India, over 55% of displaced person are women, mainly of whom lose livelihood connection and the local ecosystem. Education become the first casualty. 60% of displaced girls do not return to the formal schooling. The 2010 flood in Pakistan revealed that over 70% of the displaced were women and children, many of whom could not access aid simply due to the language barriers. Across the South Asia, from Nepal floodplain to India coastal belt, women face both environmental vulnerability and the linguistic exclusions. The number are alarming. 37.4 million people displaced in South Asia between 2020 and 2025, with a 26.8% gender literacy gap in crisis affected regions. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Research methodology. Yeah, thank you. So our study is based on the comprehensive secondary research approach, examining the data from the 2018 to 2025. We 2025 we analyze a case study from the India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. Uh, Bangladesh focusing on the women living experience of displacement. NGOs report providing insight into the gender challenges of accessing informal aids and education. We also review literature policy and educational framework to evaluate their responsiveness to crisis contents. So our analysis use a critical discourse analyze which help us how to patriarchy, trauma, and marginalization intersect with the language access. This allow us to identify the gap that quantitative data alone after the failure to the reveal. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Key barriers why the displaced women left behind. Yeah. So climate displaced women face a layered or intersectional barrier that the hinder that literacy and language learning. First, patriarchal restriction limit women freedom to attend the classes or engaging in a public space. In many communities, 68% reported that the male family member controlled decision regarding their education. And the second, the care burden increasing during the crisis. Women spend 3 to 5 times more hours on the caregiving, leaving no structured time for learning. Third one is a digital literacy. Illiteracy poses the additional challenges. Only 28% of displaced women in South Asia have access to basic digital tool or skill. Lastly, literacy program are often conducted in a dominating or national language instead of indigenous dialect, further excluding women. There is a barrier mean that the literacy become a privilege, not a right. During the crisis situation, ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Proposed solution. Proposed solution. Crisis responsive gendered literacy CRGL model. So to bridge this gap, we propose the crisis responsive gender literacy model we call CRGSL, the three pillar framework that a center women voice and the relatives. This model recognizes that the literacy is not just about the reading and writing, it is about a participation, resilience, and the cultural survival. First one is multilingual justice, respective and using the indigenous and the oral language. And no, ma'am, please stop. Yes. Women lead learning ecosystem, creating a peer-based and the safe learning space. Third, accessible technology using a low-tech, affordable solution for a digital inclusion. This framework reframe literacy as a pathway to agency, not a top-to-down intervention. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Multilingual justice. Yes, thank you. The first pillar emphasizes language justice. To make a literacy accessible, we must honor the local dialect, oral tradition, and the indigenous languages. When women learn in their mother tongue, they participate more confidently and they remain information better. Studies show that the 40% increase in the participation and rationality. This approach preserves identity, reduces fear of formal system, and enable to women to take part in the decision affected their lives. With a 40% of the world, 7,000 languages are at the risk of existence by the 2100. This is not only the literacy issue but the cultural imperative. Can we move to the next slide? Yes. So the second pillar focus on the women lead peer-based learning space. Traditional education structure often exclude the displaced women due to the formality, timing, and the social stigma. In contrast, community learning circle and a peer group create a cultural rooted trauma consequences environments. This space allow women to share the life experience, build a confidence, and the act not only the learner but a knowledge creator and facilitator, such as an ecosystem restore dignity, leadership, and the solidarity in the crisis setting. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Pillar number 3, accessible technologies. Yes, thank you. And the third pillar addressing the digital exclusion by the promoting inclusion and the low tech approach. Many displaced women lack smartphone, internet access, and the digital literacy. Therefore, tools like community radio, SMS based learning, and the mobile literacy app become powerful mean of access. Local information center in the flood of drought prone area can also bridge the communication gaps. This technology ensures that the women receive timely information on the aid, education, and the climate risks without depending on the advanced infrastructure. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Case study Sundarban in Bihar. Yes. To ground this model in real context, we examine the case study from the Sundarban in West Bengal and the flood-prone district of Bihar in India. In Sundarban, women learning circle emerged in the response to cyclone and repeated displacement. This circle linked literacy with the survival through the disaster preparedness, health awareness, and the community coordination. In Bihar, adolescent girl and the woman formed peer group where the literacy was integrated with the local governance, participation, and the livelihood resilience. Across both regions, the initiative increased women's agency and the strengthening community resilience, providing the culturally roots. Women lead literacy strategy can stunt a long-term impact. Ma'am, can we move to the next slide? Implication, conclusion, and the references. Yes, thank you. As we conclude, the implications are clear. The CRGL model represented the context responsive approach that align with the literacy with the survival, identity, and recovery. Women lead multi-language and the technology accessible framework are not just the alternative; they are transformative model for inclusion. Language justice become a foundation of the solidarity, empowerment, and the climate resilience. As we often say, literacy is not just only about a reading word, it's about a rewriting destiny, especially for the displaced women. Thank you so much for your attention.